think we all, a servant heart, it's the opposite of being selfish, right? What's a servant heart look like? Some of the simplest things, have you ever been at a restaurant and had a waitress who you go, I don't know why that person's in here serving me in the food, because they don't want to be here. They're awful, or they're this, that. And then the other hand, you can go in there and it's somebody who takes care of your every need, no questions asked, crackers on the floor, they help you clean them up and all that. Well, that boils up to where it's not people who say, not my job, it's not my people who walk by things. A servant heart is, somebody said to me one time, it looks like the kind of things you would do for the one you love the most. If you could think of the number one person in your life that you love the most right now, what you would do for them, kind of no questions asked, you wouldn't think much about it. How much in your life does that spread out that you do that for others, or are you always looking inwardly? So again, then you can, how does that relate to business? Some of the stories I just told. I had the good fortune, I probably have a lot of that in my heart, I believe, because of my grandmother and my dad's a pastor. All I watched my whole life was my folks give. Today they don't hardly have anything monetarily, but they gave their whole life, and so that's kind of where that comes from. Integrity, that's obvious. There's almost a cliche definition of integrity, and that is, what do you do when no one's looking? And I think it's the core value. I had a friend one time tell me, if you have a friend with high on integrity, that would be the person you could trust with your checkbook, all your cash, and your wife while you left for 6 months. How many of those kind of friends do you have? But there's a lot of stuff like that. That's what integrity looks like. But again, how does that drive your personal life forward? How does it drive our business forward? Again, the kind of customers that we're looking for, absolutely, to this day, today, and many in the room know many of our great customers long term. We've had some we're in our 31st year, or whatever we hit now. Some of them are since the very beginning to this day. You could go interview them and go, you know what? Whatever Kevin, the team, whatever they said, they did it. If something got broke or didn't work out right, they took care of it, period, did what they said they're going to do. Don't have to worry about it. Do not have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about getting cheated, overbilled, anything. If anything goes wrong, it was a mistake. So that's what that looks like. Third one's dedication. I think, again, these are all so painfully obvious in some ways, but yet we all have lots of people around us who do not have many of these skills. But being dedicated is, again, coming from the firefighter background, we've got a number of military background people in the room. Anything you ever do that matters, however it comes up on that rheostat of if it matters in life, you want somebody that's dedicated. But that tends to be your family too. It's it's the most important thing, right? Are you dedicated to your family? Are you dedicated to this company? Now those look differently, but if you're not dedicated to it, you end up never being part of that team that really thrives inside of it. And then again, it parlays into customers going, they don't see dedicated people here and they're doing a really, really important project or job to them, and you're not dedicated and they can count on, and you're full of, it's people that aren't full of excuses, those kind of things. That's what dedication looks like. Solving problems, again, painfully obvious, but again, we all know people who don't like solving problems, avoid them. Everything is a problem. Sometimes they even find them, to not work or to not do something. But solving problems is the beauty, again, of driving this business forward. Much of what we do today is in place because of solving somebody else's problem. The insulation business I just mentioned was born in that. Our underlayment business was born in that. Wasn't anybody around doing a number of things that we do today. We do them differently, better, faster, higher capacity, because we saw those kind of openings that were customers needed that problem solved for them, and so they turned to us instantly to do it. And finally, building relationships. And back to the story, another little why in the road, one of the stories some of you heard many, many times in that process is the real launch on getting into batting then and to more insulation was a drywall job I had taken to do 3 hotels. 2 of them were out at the interstate, and one was at the in Ankeny, all by the same owner. They were building them all at the same time. Long story short, got the drywall bit on it, but we still weren't doing a lot of insulation. He calls in the middle of that, not unlike the hog shed deal, says, hey, the batting contractor isn't going to show up. Can you guys bat those buildings before you drywall them, of course, and then continue on through. And through that process, I thought, well, 3 3 hotels worth of insulation. You could probably buy insulation better, right? If you could buy 3 loads or enough for 3 hotels. So Yvonne gets on the phone, dials up 1-800-JOHNS Manville, whatever at the time. Gets hooked up with the rep. Met a very dear friend of mine that really was a mentor for me in the business, John Page from Minneapolis. We bought those buildings from Insulation Supplies. The rep became one of my best friends, still is today, hooked me up with John Page, who at that time, they didn't want to sell us direct, we weren't just getting going, but he hooked me up with the best guy he could from Minneapolis, who got us a great price, great service, got it going. And I could write little books on those kind of things to this day, but those relationships, making friends in such a way, and it's mutually beneficial. John, fast forward 3 years, I figured out that the Johns Manville rep was desperate for somebody to sell Johns Manville insulation in Central Iowa. They didn't have anybody yet. I was a candidate, right? Because I was friendly, but he didn't know yet. But he hooked me up with Paige, and then 2 years later, he says, "Hey, you guys are doing enough now. You're good. You can go direct. We'll sell you direct." And that was the beginning of our first. To this day, there's only 4 manufacturers of insulation in the country. Right now in this building we have JM and Owens Corning in here. We can buy from any of them. It's pretty rare that happens. But again, it's back to a relationship.